We are diving in so that we can go from this layer and then keep going down, and we can compound that with the EFT. And that's one of my favorite things, is when you can come back to it every day, you'll just start to notice these subtle shifts that are really still powerful. What I'm noticing is that when we stop searching for what the pattern is, then another pattern becomes more visible and will pop up into our awareness. Whenever we don't have awareness of that particular issue popping up, we'll start to change directions and honestly just like fiddle with things. We'll change our offer again and mess with the strategy. And I don't like the shiny object syndrome as far as the phrase goes, because I feel like, especially if you're a manifesting generator, like you absolutely want to give yourself permission to change and move. But this undefined G can make us just feel kind of restless. And so it can be addictive to like constantly be searching for something, which keeps us occupied and distracted from being grounded again and knowing that we have what we need. Usually everything feels like it's a dance, like a fluidity between these things, and then you find your balance. But just really looking at this other component of basically giving yourself permission to relax before you have clarity or before you have certainty, because often the other times, all that rigidity and that distraction it's our mind's way of taking hold and trying to be in charge and be like, see, I'm in charge and I know what I'm doing. And your mind wants you to have clarity first so that you can relax. But all the work that we're doing this week, especially with EFT, is all pointing towards relaxing first and then letting the clarity bubble up from there. And I can't guarantee you a lot of things, but with that one in particular, it's like, I can guarantee that is absolutely going to help you. A lot of us, especially again, the Mani-gens, we're just not used to that. We're looking to move and to do and to make so that we can feel relaxed. But really what that creates is just this momentum of, now I'm doing all the time and I can't really stop and I can't really relax. And I'm kind of burnt out at all ends. And again, if you're a generator, that's not right for us. We aren't supposed to be initiating anything. We're supposed to be relaxing back and letting things come to us. Same with Mani-gens. But when we get caught up in this energy, it can be really hard to stop and not realize that at that point we are in fight mode, fight, flight, fawn, or freeze. And it's like fight. And I was in that, and I hardly recognized it because I am such a relaxed person. And I truly am, like, not just on the outside, on the inside. I can have days where I'm feeling anxious, but generally I am relaxed. And so whenever that bubbled up for me and I realized I'm over here working on my website and starting a new offer and changing my strategy, and it's very much like just trying to force things to happen. And the only people who are really have the permission to do that, because they have what it takes for that, is a manifester. But that's a whole other conversation. So the other thing I wanted to say is that discomfort can bubble up whenever we are like trying to relax and the things that we're doing aren't working. And I think as entrepreneurs, we can oftentimes mistake that signal as something's wrong, something's off. But that discomfort doesn't mean it's a failure, and it doesn't mean stop, and it doesn't mean really anything personal. It's really just information for you to work with and work your way through. Before we dive into this EFT, one thing I need to mention again is basically the permission here for manifesting generators. I'll put the chart to grab your chart. I'll put the link down below. So if you're new here and you're like, I have no idea what you're talking about and I have no idea which one I am, click on the link and I'm happy to chat with you to any extent that you're curious about it. But if you're a manifesting generator, we have to look at this idea of changing directions differently. You're actually meant to do that, and that is actually magnetic for you, to let it be uncovered, and as soon as it doesn't feel right, you can shift. But for a generator, we can fall into that too. But what it's going to look like more for us is more trying to not abandon something before there's enough evidence to show us that it's working. And sometimes, honestly, I feel like the challenge isn't even necessarily the changing of the direction. I think the challenge could be like learning where that impulse is coming from, what your body is trying to uncover, what your business is trying to uncover. That's where the business as medicine comes in again, because I have absolutely seen, for me and my own work and me with clients, whatever you feel like you're bumping up against here that just is so frustrating for you is a wound or a pattern or something that's there that's to look at. And practitioners with years of experience working with the body and working with the energy, we already know this, but sometimes we forget that our business is also taking us through that process. And this is absolutely the work that we're getting into here, and basically allowing our system to understand that it's really not about changing direction. A lot of times it's about creating enough safety for you to hear yourself clearly and to come back to that self-trust and understanding and knowing. And so I think that is one of the patterns that your business is pulling you through and towards right now. So let's just go ahead and dive in here. I've been chatting enough. If you have not done any EFT before, just follow along with me. So we start with a karate chop. Sometimes I get really excited and I probably do it a little too hard, or maybe I just had some coffee this morning. If you can't repeat after me out loud, then you will just save this video for later and come back when you can. You can do these every single day, the exact same one, or like I said, you can do the one yesterday, then today, and then tomorrow, and feel that starting to compound. Again, if you're a manifesting generator, just be mindful that we're not trying to change the fact that you pivot a lot. That's actually something you have permission to do. And again, if you're a generator, we're working on trying to stick with something till the end, because we're meant for mastery. As long as, for both types, as long as it brings you complete and utter joy. And that might seem like too big of a thing, but it's basically, that's where I'm at with human design. I've said this before, but I can talk about it all day long. I absolutely love it. That's the kind of joy that we're talking about our business is bringing, and our offers and what we talk about. Let's go ahead and get started. Karate chop. Even though I keep questioning my direction, I deeply and completely honor how hard I've been trying to get this right. Let your body breathe when it comes. Even though part of me wants certainty before I move forward, I choose to meet myself with compassion. Even though I don't always know whether to stay or change direction, maybe I can trust myself more than I realize. And we'll move to the eyebrow. I keep changing direction. I can tell I keep questioning my decisions. I don't always know if I'm on the right path. It doesn't always feel certain to me or exactly clear. Part of me wants that feeling of certainty really bad. Part of me keeps wondering if I should be doing something different, if I should be looking for something new or changing directions. And then the collarbone. I keep looking over my shoulder and looking at what other people are doing and what their businesses look like. And then we go under the arm. I keep wondering if there's a better way, if I'm supposed to be doing this a different way or a better way. And honestly, that feeling is exhausting. And I'm afraid, what if I'm wasting my time? What if I'm wasting money? And what if I choose wrong? What if I make the wrong decision? And for that matter, what if I leave too soon? And there's even a possibility of me staying too long. Sometimes both of those fears are here at the exact same time. Leaving too soon and staying too long. I have this feeling, this craving for certainty before I move or before I commit or before I make a decision. I want certainty before I move, and I want certainty before I stay. And certainty rarely arrives first. It makes sense that this feels hard. Of course, I want a feeling of reassurance, and of course, I want to know that I'm doing the right thing. I've been trying to protect my time and my energy. I've been really trying to make sure I don't waste either of those. And I've really been trying to avoid the feeling of disappointment or feeling like I'm a failure or this is something I should have never even started. And I've been really trying to avoid getting it wrong. And that makes me feel like part of me deserves compassion. And maybe even telling myself how courageous that I am and how brave for even trying, maybe making it this far. And that makes me ask myself, what if uncertainty isn't evidence? What if discomfort isn't a problem to solve? What if some things simply need more time? What if roots grow quietly? And what if clarity can unfold while I keep moving, even if I feel uncertain at the time? What if I don't need to know the entire path all at once? What if I only need to know the very next step? And even that, I can let it come to me with ease and can remind myself to let it come with ease. And what if I can and choose to trust myself the entire time and relax into that sense of trust and believing that things are always working out for me? I don't need in this moment to force myself to stay. And I don't need to force myself to leave. I choose to listen. And then I choose to respond. And I can trust what feels complete. And I can trust what feels alive. And I believe I can trust myself to know the difference. I don't need fear making that decision for me. And so I remain. And so I am. And so it is. Now take a deep breath in. Notice what's there. Notice what's softened. Notice if anything feels just a little less urgent. If you have emotional authority, remind yourself as that emotional wave comes in that nothing needs to be decided right now. And we don't need to know the how. We can trust in that and how it unfolds. We can trust that these things come to us as gifts. And when we're relaxing into that deep self-trust, we can notice the gift. And that anytime we're trying to build out of anxiety or needing to make something happen, it usually brings us more anxiety. And so as this week's medicine starts to build, let's see if we notice, if we become a little less reactive, less urgent. And for me, this was a big one, but less consumed with figuring it all out. Letting it come, letting it unfold. Remembering that there's nothing for us to force. And the more we let this unfold before us, the more we'll see how beautiful it is than anything we could have ever thought our way into or through. So make sure you make it back here tomorrow. We'll do this again with our next EFT And in the meantime, I'm so glad that you made it here and you're working through it with us. Thanks. Bye.